Me too. Welcome, everyone. We're really excited to have you guys with us tonight for this town hall. We're going to be sharing a little bit with everyone about how COVID-19 has affected people with eating disorders, and Christie and Meredith are going to talk a little bit about some of the isolation component and just what Rock Recovery is doing to expand on our programs and to adapt during this time. So we've got some exciting things to share, and we'll also talk a little bit about how this time has shaped some of our strategic vision and talk about the growth that we hope to do with all of you over the next couple of years. So just to go over a few Zoom logistics for everybody, and just a little bit of how this is going to work. So as we've said throughout this call, we're going to have everybody except for our speakers on mute just to make sure that we don't have any background noise and that we can hear our speakers clearly. If you should be able to view the speaker at this point on your computer. I know I'm sharing my screen, but you should still be able to see your videos on the side. If you'd like to just see the speaker, you can go into active speaker view, which is going to be the second box, the second little icon on your video view. If not, you can leave it in gallery view and you'll still mainly see my screen until the end of the presentation. After Christie and Meredith go through their discussion, we're going to have a Q&A session, which I'll be moderating for everyone. There's a couple different ways that you can ask a question. So once the presentation is over, I'm going to stop my screen share so that we can all see each other's beautiful faces again. So you can either raise your hand, which I believe is on, if you go into your chat, you should see the little ... icon next to your name, and you should be able to click there's a little blue hand that kind of looks like this. So if you click on that, I'll be able to see that you've raised your hand and I can call on you to ask a question. And then if you'd prefer for me to read off your question, you can also just submit it to the chat, and that chat is set privately so that I'll be the only one getting those messages. So you can send your question to me and I'll read it aloud. If you can't figure out how to do the raise your hand, if you can't find it, you can also just message me and say, I have a question, and then I'll just call on your name and you can read that question. All right. And so now to introduce our speakers. So today we're going to be hearing from Christie Dondero Bettwy, who is the Executive Director of Rock Recovery. Christie came on staff with Rock as their first staff member after volunteering for 3 years in 2013. And she's been working alongside Carrie to lead the charge ever since. Prior to coming on staff, Christie worked for Habitat for Humanity in Charlotte, North Carolina, and as a consultant with PwC. Having gone through recovery herself, Christie understands the depth of clinical and spiritual support, and I'm sure you've all seen Christie shares her story on our blog and on local blogs and news outlets as well. So we're really excited to have her here to talk and to hear more about her encouraging story throughout this process. And then we also have Meredith Riddick, who is our wonderful program director. Meredith is a licensed professional counselor and a certified eating disorder specialist supervisor. It's a little bit of a mouthful. Who treats eating disorders, trauma, anxiety, and relationship issues. And Meredith leads the charge for our clinical team here at Rock Recovery. She's been on staff with us since 2019. And we're really grateful to have her. She's certified in EMDR and a whole world of just of therapeutic support. In addition to her work, Meredith provides supervision and volunteers her time on the International Association for Eating Disorders. So we're really excited to have Meredith with us too. So Christie, I'm going to kick it off to you.
Thanks, Kristen.
About our mission.
And I'll introduce Kristen because she didn't introduce herself, so this is only fair. Kristen is my technical other half, definitely my other work half. Don't tell my husband, who's also on the call. And she's been with us for about 2.5 years and has recently been promoted to our Director of Community Partnerships. So thank you, Kristen. Perfect. All right, so I will kick us off. And like Kristen said, I am sadly not the founder of Rock Recovery. I get mistaken for the founder a lot, and then I have to correct people and not take credit for founding this wonderful organization. But Carrie Larson, who's on the call, apparently moderating some sword fights with her son in the background, is our lovely founder. So shout out to Carrie here, our wonderful founder. So Carrie founded Rock Recovery 11 years ago with 11 other women who are really dedicated to this call of helping people overcome eating disorders and different mental health challenges. And Carrie's experience was personal, much like my own, where she realized there's such a need for these programs that people can't afford, they can't access, they can't get to, they don't exist. There's different barriers to it. And so Carrie kind of paved the way and created this awesome program that Rock Recovery started our first clinical recovery program 10 years ago, and it's since sort of blossomed and grown since then, and has grown quite a bit in the last year under Meredith's leadership, our program director here, that you'll get to hear more from. So lots happened in 11 years, and I feel like the last 2 months have been 11 years somehow. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but even the last 2 months, I think our organization has just really grown and flourished and innovated. I'm really excited to tell you guys about what we've been doing thanks to your support and what we think this means for our future, because things have changed and there's a lot of, I think, silver lining blessing in it for us as an organization. And there's a lot of increased need in the community where we're really trying to innovate and quickly scale so we can reach the increased need that we're seeing. But it all started 11 years ago as a way for us to bridge gaps in the treatment and understanding of eating disorders. And we have a lot of things that are unique about our approach. The big thing is that we value clinical care and really have trained clinicians that put on the majority of our programs. And we really value spiritual care and faith. And for people who want to integrate that into the process, we think it's really pivotal. And so we also really uniquely work with churches and people of faith all across the nation to help bring in that holistic care, because an eating disorder requires a lot of different healing, mental, emotional, physical, relational, and we think spiritual as well. And then, of course, the big piece of our program is cost. For anyone who's gone to the doctor or tried to go see a therapist, it can be expensive and it's worth it, but there can be barriers for people at different stages of their life or even their whole lives where they can't afford these services that are necessary to them, but just aren't accessible through the current treatment landscape, insurance coverage, or a variety of other reasons. So all of our programs are on sliding scale so we can remove that barrier for people, and cost is never a thing that's going to keep someone from getting help. All right, so I kind of just summed up our story a little bit. These are just some highlights, but I will say in the last couple of years, there's been a lot, you guys. We doubled our existing program capacity 3 years ago and moved our program from just being in Virginia to opening up a program in DC. Even though they're like 4 miles apart and just a few zip codes apart, it's really hard. For those of you who live in DC, you know how tough it is to cross the river one way or the other. And so adding that new program a couple of years ago in DC really helped us expand who we could reach in person, reach people coming out of the city from work because it's a weekday program, and helped us get more people in our program because we had a waiting list for years and years and years. And then since that, we moved into our own community center space a little over a year ago in Roslyn, just the first stop across the river in Arlington, if people don't want to go too far in Virginia. And that's been amazing to have our own space, to be able to have individual sessions, meeting with family members, people who are seeking help for the first time, and also a place to have our clinical programs and our community events that's under our roof where we have control and we get to make it look pretty and nice and comfortable. And that's been amazing. So we're continuing to build that out and really miss being with you guys and with our clients in that space, but it'll still be there when we all come back. And the biggest thing here in the last 2 months, like I mentioned, is that we have gone virtual. You're fine, Kristen. You can go to the next one. We have gone virtual. So it was a direction we thought maybe we'd go into eventually or soonish, but eventually came real fast. And it happened 8 weeks ago. So Meredith will tell you a little bit more about that transition in a couple of minutes. But we moved all of our programs virtually without any interruption in the middle of March, and it was amazing to see our team innovate. I was listening to a webinar earlier talking about nonprofits are sort of either in the surviving stage right now or the thriving stage, and I feel like programmatically we got through that survival, we got all that up and running, and now we're figuring out how can we scale, how can we continue to thrive, and how can we continue to grow. And like Kristen mentioned, we've seen a lot in the last 8 weeks. Again, it feels like a long time to me. We've lived a lot of life together, but separate. And there's been some great coverage that's actually come to our community. There have been some great articles that we've thankfully been featured in BuzzFeed and a couple of different outlets where mental health is coming to the forefront because it's a bigger need right now. A lot of the things that were already hard in life just got harder with these new circumstances, lack of control, isolation, job loss, grief, change, fear. I mean, just a lot is brewing right now, which is bringing up a lot for a lot of people. So we've seen mental health kind of become more commonplace in this conversation finally, where people are beginning to more and more tear down the stigma and have these conversations. And there's these 4 things we've really seen. People are more isolated than ever. People are still seeking help, which is the good news. Virtual programming is working. That's the other good news. And there's more to be. Meredith, can you talk a little bit about the first point here?
Yeah, absolutely. Even though I don't conceptualize eating disorders as addictions, there's this quote in the addiction community that I love and I think is so appropriate for this. And that is that the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And so to that point, you know, with everything going on with this pandemic, we hear all this about social distancing and all of that. It's kind of this nuance of making sure that social distancing doesn't become social disconnection. And so that was something really important as we made this transition, that we didn't lose momentum with all of our clinical services so that our clients felt disconnected from the support that they're used to receiving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that point about the connection. That's something we've heard in our program over the last, 10, 11 years, is that people love feeling connected to a community. They felt like they were the only ones. They believed the lie that no one else thought these thoughts. I must be the only one who struggles, or my friends love me and they don't get it, or my family loves me, but they still don't quite get it. And we're able to connect people. We often kind of call it the gift of I get it, where someone can kind of exhale a little bit because they feel understood and they know they're not alone. And I've been really encouraged to hear the stories, Meredith, from you and the team about how our clients are still getting that gift of I get it and connection virtually. It doesn't have to just be in person. It's still really working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other good news here, I said too, is that people are still seeking help. Part of me when this first happened, I wondered, oh gosh, are people going to maybe just kind of spiral more and more and isolate more and withdraw? Because it can be really tough to sort of gain momentum when you're isolated, when you're on your own, when things are hard. And I am sure that is happening for some people in our community that our hearts are definitely going out to, and we hope they can reach out for help soon. But we have seen actually that people are definitely still reaching out for help, and they're finding us in a variety of ways. It might be on different websites where we advertise. It might just be the good old internet when they Google eating disorders in DC or Arlington. It might be through a referral or through a clinician they're already working with in the community, but people are still seeking help from us and people are still finding us, which we'll talk a bit more about later too. But the good news is that while this situation has caused people who were in early recovery to kind of start to seemingly relapse or start to struggle again, we're able to reach them before it kind of spirals out of control. Or for people who had always struggled and it's getting worse or it's still just as hard, we're able to help people in those parts of the process too. And our programs really exist to help reach people in those gaps in the outpatient space and in that transition, either back home from higher level of care where it's a bit more intensive, like a hospital or residential or partial hospitalization program, or for people who are seeing a great individual therapist or dietitian, but just want community, want peers, want a little bit more, want that group environment. So that's exactly what we're here to provide, and it's been working. And that's kind of the third part is virtual programming is working, right, Meredith? Hasn't it been amazing?
It's been amazing, yes.
Yeah, so the good news is, we've often wondered, there's this beauty in breaking bread. Some of you guys actually were at our benefit dinner with us, praise the Lord, February 29th. 2 weeks before this all happened, we were all together breaking bread, 200 of us. And so that won't be happening for a while. And I am so grateful that was able to happen before all of this. And I have sort of that memory and that unity, that community that have kind of keep me going to go back to. And we have all the wonderful funds that you helped us raise that night too, which has been incredible to keep our programs going. but there's this beauty in breaking bread together. And when I picture breaking bread, I picture being around a table and kind of being together. And we found, instead of opening up our community space doors, we're opening up our own living rooms. Our therapists are able to open up their own kitchen tables, and you can break bread across a virtual table. And it's really been working. There's been a lot of encouraging stories we've heard from our clients saying, this is the only support that I have, or the only support that I had. And it is such a gift that I've been able to keep it going in this really hard time. I don't know where I'd be without this program. I don't know what I would do without this weekly meal or this weekly therapy group, because it kind of just gives that rhythm and that connection and community. And even virtually, it's still breaking the stigma and breaking the silence and isolation. And I think what we've seen more than ever is there's more to be done. Ever since Carrie founded this organization 11 years ago, since I got involved 10 years ago and came on staff 7 years ago, I have just been ready to serve millions. We know that millions and millions of Americans alone struggle with eating disorders and related issues. So let's go serve all of them. Like, if they need us, we need them. Come on, let's go. But the good news is, with virtual work, we are able to reach more people more quickly, and we're able to keep doing in person once we're able to, again, of course, when it's safe in the summer or fall or who knows. But there is this new exciting opportunity that there's a lot more people who are coming to us for help, and there's a lot more that we can do even now. We don't have to wait. We can start kind of innovating and working on these things now. So the need for our programs is greater than ever. This might sound dramatic, you guys, but this is true. So I did the math, and inquiries, so from March 15th to May 1st in 2019 compared to this year in 2020, inquiries have increased 9 times. So we've gotten 9 times as many inquiries this year as last year. And, that could be a combination of factors. We're getting more well known in the community. There's a lot of things happening, but I think what that really shows is people need us right now. And they maybe have known for a while. I've actually talked to quite a few people who've been interested in our program in the last couple of weeks who have said, I always knew this was an issue, but I just never was able to prioritize it. Or I could always kind of handle it and keep it under the radar. But now with COVID, with isolation, it's kind of gone out of control, or it's gotten a lot louder, or I have time to work on it now, so why not now, right? So there's been a lot of different reasons people are seeking help, whether it be a friend came to them and sort of prompted them, or they started to feel themselves slipping and they got scared, feeling out of control and like things were getting worse, or they, stepped down from a different program, or different things happened. So there's lots of different reasons people have reached out to us, but the need is the same, but higher. The need that we normally have is always there, and it's even higher. And we're getting a lot of program inquiries from other parts of the country, which we've been trying to support people and plug them into other nationwide resources. But we've also been getting a lot of resources and inquiries from people in Virginia, like 100 miles away, or outside of Charlottesville, or up more in Columbia or Baltimore. And we actually have people who live in Baltimore who take the train down to our weekly Thursday DC program when it's operating in person, because there's just nothing else like us, and people desperately want this community. And so we've been kind of thinking, wow, instead of having people have to take the train to us, what if we can just have them go in their living room and turn their computer on, or do these other pieces? So these are all the exciting things that we're starting to think about, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But we're just getting lots of inquiries from other places. And in addition to that, the need for sliding scale services is increasing. I mean, we're all seeing the news with unemployment going up, underemployment, contract work being kind of shortened. There's just a lot going on, and a lot more financial instability than ever before. So for people to be in this vulnerable place where they're realizing, wow, I want help for this issue, but I can't afford what I might need to pay out of pocket, or my insurance doesn't cover this, we're really stepping in to bridge that gap. And it's been amazing to be able to do that. All right, Meredith, take it away.
All right, take it away.
Give us the update on how our programs are going. How have we responded?
Yeah, so we really took immediate action with everything going on pretty early on. So in March 15th, we moved all programs virtually. And we just kind of made that decision early on, kind of feeling like that's kind of where this was headed anyway. And then we wanted to really provide a sense of safety for our clients, and also for the clinicians who who are with Rock. And so we started doing Zoom right away with our groups. And we, of course, we let our clients know how that would work and all of that. And I have to say, our therapists made that transition really easily as well. Well, maybe I shouldn't say easily. They made it look easy, but they made it really seamless. And even after the first one that went virtual, we kind of got a lot of feedback, like that went really well. Here's what we'll do next time. And if we need to tweak anything, we will. And so we all just were in a lot of communication during those first couple of weeks with how things are going virtually. So, and then in the meantime, we already had plans for kind of some other groups and all that. So one of our groups, or actually, sorry, two of our newer groups, we immediately moved virtual. And so we started off doing virtual with those groups, and those have been going really well too. So I'll kind of give that update later. But so everything's virtual and working really well. We've actually been able to increase our services by doing that. Well, and we'll talk a little bit more about this too, but the Virginia Bridge to Life did have a little bit of low census at the time. So just various things going on. This was just a difficult time. So clients who were in the group needing to go to a higher level of care, or clients who were maybe moving back to their home state or moving back with their parents, and just a lot of times of transition. So we ended up kind of combining those groups with our Thursday Bridge to Life. So those are all together. And then in the meantime, there were a lot of other local clinicians, outpatient providers who were providing free support groups and free meal support. So instead of us kind of creating another one for that purpose, what Kristen did for us, a really beautiful thing. She published an entire resource guide of all of the local and everything we could put in there for free and affordable resources, not only for our current clients who were in our group so that they could have some additional support, but if there was anyone else coming in that we didn't really have, our fit wasn't the best for them, that we could give them some resources pretty quickly. So Kristen did a lovely job with that. Currently, we're providing over 30 women with direct clinical services in all of our programs, and with some of our new virtual support groups and all of that, we have over 25 individuals signed up for our May offering. So we are really thrilled about those kinds of things.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so to go into a little bit more detail, so Bridge to Life is our 3-hour group that meets weekly. It's led by a licensed clinician, and it involves, the first hour is a meal exposure, and then the second 2 hours are what we call kind of the process part of it. So that's kind of more of the therapy part. Before all of this, we had one that met in person in DC and one that met in person in Virginia. So like I said, because our Virginia numbers ended up being lower for those reasons, we combined those groups. So for now, those groups both together meet on Thursdays, and eventually we will go back to kind of an in-person DC and in-person Virginia. And then also we are going to be starting a new 2-hour virtual Bridge to Life, probably by the end of this month. Or is that kind of what we're thinking, Christy? Something like that?
That's the goal, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to add on a virtual Bridge to Life for our Virginia clients or whoever wants it. That will be kind of, we're going to test it out doing a 2-hour version that meets virtually. So we're going to kind of add on to that. Our body image group and our faith-based therapy groups. Our body image group has been going on for I think 1.5 years or something like that. And yeah, and it's a once weekly 90-minute group that our therapist Kate runs. She does an amazing job, and we've seen that group really grow a lot. We're almost at capacity for that group. And then our faith-based group was one of the new ones that we were going to add on. So we had to start with that virtually, and Kate runs this group as well. And it was so amazing to see the need for that group that we didn't even realize. We kind of put it out there. We were like, okay, we'll see who all signs up for this. And again, this group, it's only been going on for a few weeks, and it's already, I don't know if it's almost at capacity, but we have a good solid 6 or 7 clients in there, I think, right?
Yeah, 7.
And okay, yeah, and it's a 1-hour group that meets, I believe, on Thursday mornings that support clients and their faith in their recovery journeys. And so Kate runs the body image and faith-based group and does an amazing job. the additional services that we have, kind of like Christy mentioned, we never want finances to be an issue when it comes to receiving support and services. So we always do that. And then in addition to that, for our clients who maybe they aren't able to find an outpatient provider who takes their insurance or has a reduced rate or whatever it may be. So in that case, we offer sliding scale individual therapy as well. We'll do referral sessions. So another thing, Christy's been doing a lot of pre-screens over the last 6 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks or something like that. And so, you know, if we have a client who is needing a service that we're not able to provide right now, we find referrals for them. And so we try and stay well connected within our community and even nationally with, you know, what are some resources out there that we can share with those individuals who call and are looking for support. We've now had our monthly support group for moms. It's met twicely. It meets it's met twice monthly. Sorry, oh my gosh, I'm like not saying this right. It's met twice, and it's a monthly group that meets the first Saturday of every month. So we started that in April, and so that started out virtually. We meant for it to be in person, but that one transitioned virtually to start, and it's been great. We have something else we started this year is we have a graduate intern who, her name's Jenny, and she's amazing. Jenny is, I can't wait for Jenny to finish out graduate program and become a licensed clinician. She's gonna be amazing, but she runs this support group for moms and has done an incredible job. We started off with 2 in April, and now we had 3 show up in this past Saturday, and I think we have another 3. So we have 6 total right now for that group. And then I already talked about the new virtual Bridge to Life that'll be starting soon. So a lot of exciting things going on with services. There's definitely a need, and we're trying to keep up with it as much as we can.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great update. So yeah, like Meredith was talking about, in addition to our clinical services, we also really value community and peer-led work. And that's one thing that we've always known what makes us different, and we've really kind of put to words. We believe that clinicians are necessary in the recovery process, and that groups are super healing as well, and that we don't want cost to be a barrier. So all the programs that we're offering and starting to grow and to launch, we're always thinking through what are the gaps, what are the things that people need that they can't currently get. So I love the moms group that we're just starting, and we've had a lot of interest for the group, but then I think moms' lives just got real hard compared to even the average bear right now. So I think that will be up and full very, very soon. But we just knew, gosh, there's different people for different reasons that have different shame or different struggles with their own eating disorder and their own body image issues. And so we just want to create safe spaces for people to talk about that. So the moms group's a great example of that. The faith-based group's a great example of that. We had a lot of people of faith say, you know, I want my faith, I want science, and I want Jesus. And how do we do both? Or how do we bring these things together? And it's been really beautiful to get to have that integration for people and meet these different needs in the community. And additionally, we really see one of our ways that we can serve the community is helping the helpers and equipping the front line. So we do a lot of educational programs throughout the year in person when we're allowed to, with universities, with churches. We do fun runs. We do all kinds of things because our whole point is we want to go where the people are, because it's hard to reach out for help when you're struggling with an eating disorder. And sometimes you need someone to kind of help you take that first step. So we do these events that are non-threatening so that people can kind of come up to one of us at the event and say, hey, can I have a card? Or, you know, I think I might need help for a friend or maybe for myself. And we get so many people who kind of break isolation and seek help who wouldn't have unless they came to an educational event or a community event. And then beyond that, we want to also provide this other layer of support and help. So beyond the clinical services, how can we have people like myself? I always say, I have no fancy letters behind my name, but I have a story and I have some street cred. I've been to a lot of fancy conferences. I talk to like 20 therapists a week for my job. My job is the best. You guys should all get a job like mine. You get free therapy all around, and you get to be friends with therapists. It's kind of the greatest gig. But we know that recovered people matter too. And we also have a chaplain who's on our team. So right now we're only a few of us on staff full time. Hopefully that's going to grow really soon to add somebody back to staff. But we have about 5 clinical contractors and a chaplain who are on staff with us as well. So we're always navigating, always trying to stretch our resources, always trying to do more, and really hoping to keep growing that team. And our chaplain has been amazing, and because she can kind of come in and play a different role. She can help people who have had spiritual harm or who want to figure out how to integrate their own faith into their recovery, no matter what it is. We work with people of all backgrounds and beliefs that are able to help people integrate that into their process. And as a faith-based, many of you probably know, we are a faith-based organization. Again, we serve all people, but a lot of our foundation is this idea of faith and freedom being intertwined. So because of that, we're really starting to uniquely equip churches and faith communities in the Christian world in particular. And one of the ways we're doing that is actually with a New ID course. So New ID is an amazing 6-week course. It's a Christian course, and it was started by an amazing woman named Kim Hemsley. Oh my gosh, over 15 years ago. It was what I went through when I went through recovery. I always joke, if you Google me, I'm like literally their poster child. You can find my whole life story in a testimonial I did one time. But New ID is this great course because it equips churches or other places, like we're looking at working with private practices, other communities who want to run this course in their community and reach people who either might be seeing a therapist already or who might not have been seeking help and they want to seek help. So when we've run New ID, we've had women come to us who've been struggling for 30 years or for 10 years or for however many years, and they just never thought that there was something that could help them. They never thought it was bad enough. They never thought they really had a problem that needed to work on. And then suddenly their church offered something and they thought, oh, well, I go to small groups all the time. I go to Bible studies. Sure, I'll go to the 6-week thing. You know, what could go wrong? And then their eyes are open, the scales fall off, and we're able to connect them to clinical care and get them started on that recovery journey, because it's never too late to work on recovery. And so this course has been amazing because it reaches people, and we've always done it in person, but we're running our first virtual one in June, starting on June 10th. So this will be open to anybody across the entire nation, because while the clinical programs that Meredith mentioned are wonderful, clinicians are tied to state licensure, which means we're limited in who we can serve across the community. And right now we can only take clients clinically in DC, Maryland, and Virginia because of that licensure. But with people like myself, without the fancy letters, but some really solid training, we can reach people with peer support across the entire nation with none of those barriers from state to state resources. So this is a layer we're starting to really build out, especially virtually, because we're beginning to see this great need. How can we expand it? How can we get out to the people without those other barriers of cost and the barriers of the state to state licensure? So one of the great workshops that we're doing is we have a 4-week workshop coming up starting this Wednesday. We have, I think, 28 people signed up for it now. It's going to be a really full group. We're going to have lots of breakout groups on Zoom. We're going to keep flexing our Zoom muscles and learning new technological advances. And that's going to be a 4-week support course with teachings and support groups and prayer. And then we're in the process of figuring out, beyond the 6-week course and other short-term workshops, how can we have ongoing support going? So that's one of our big goals, is getting a new program that's virtual, that's ongoing, that people can jump into at any time when they realize, wow, I need help, I'm struggling with this. Oh, this thing's happening on Tuesdays. Okay, great, I can start next week, versus, oh, that's not happening for another 3 months, or oh, that just closed, or what can I do? We want to try to have that gap for people removed, so there's no barrier between, oh, I need help, and connecting to that help. Because it can be really tough to recognize you need help, and it can be even tougher to not have a place to plug in once you realize that and your eyes are sort of open. All right, I can talk about that for 8 hours. Sorry, I'm totally going to ramble. So future plans, and we're wrapping up here. So our future plans and focus areas. So like we said, we've seen virtual is really working, and we still value in-person care as well. So we're figuring out how to layer growing our in-person services when we're able to come back together, and how to layer virtual services that can reach people across an entire state. So we're starting with a new program in Virginia, where we launched one program last week that Meredith mentioned, and we're launching one more at the end of this month. And that'll be open to residents of Virginia across the entire state. We're hoping to do that same thing in Maryland, most likely in the fall. We're still in conversations to figure out how we might do that with both virtual and potential in-person clinical services. We're looking at starting these nationwide peer-led virtual groups, starting with New ID in June, and hoping to evolve from there once we can get some staff and resource power to put into building that out, and training and curriculum and building out that whole program. Looking at getting New ID continue to go across the nation. And then beyond that, you know, my personal passion has always been national growth, but we knew there was a need here in DC. And DC was our root, and then we've gotten to grow from local to regional, and we've gotten to go from local to regional, and now we're looking at going national. And it looks like it's going to start state to state. So to be able to think about, okay, who's licensed in what state, who can we partner with? So we're looking at partnering with somebody hopefully in California, maybe the next few months or year, thinking about maybe North Carolina, Pennsylvania, New York. We're just starting to think about where are their needs, where do we have partnerships, and where can we plug in and start serving this need? So that's sort of what's next and what's coming. And we'd love your thoughts and prayers and opinions and all the things for that, because we're starting to embark on some new territory that is really exciting and really critical, both again, in person and virtually. All right, so, you know, we all do this. You guys care about this work, you support this work. We all do this because we love our clients, and we believe that people can be free from food and body image struggles. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want people to have free lives, and we want people to connect and know that they're not alone. And we got this beautiful quote from someone who is actually with us now, who was able to transition to one of our community programs to one of our clinical programs. And I'll just read this to you quickly. She said, "Trying to heal from an eating disorder amidst the pandemic is definitely not an easy task. I know my struggle with an eating disorder has caused me to self-isolate in the past without a pandemic, so it's hard to recover when we're being told to distance and isolate. But Rock Recovery has been a source of accountability and comfort to me in this time. I'm looking forward to continued healing and growth right now, and I'm thankful that Rock Recovery has continued to offer counseling sessions in a time where the need is so great." And that's the beauty. You know, I think a lot of us can feel like life is on hold until stay-at-home orders are over, but life is not on hold. Life is still happening, and there are things we can do right now to make a difference for ourselves or for somebody else. So some of those things is, if you want to get involved with us further, first of all, thank you. All of you on this call have supported us in some beautiful way over the years, whether you've been a client, you supported a client, you supported us financially, you prayed for us, you've come to an event, whatever your tie, thank you. We are so grateful for all the ways that you've supported this work. We'd love for you to share our work with your network. We have a unique opportunity to help the general world understand disordered eating and mental health right now, and we'd love for you to help us as we reach out and educate more people. You can follow us on social media and see Kristen's beautiful handiwork that she always does on social media, and how she's taught me to even use Instagram, even though I don't like learning new things. But you can see all of our messages there. And then you can support us financially as well. This is a really top of mind thing for us. Like we said, we're getting so many inquiries. There's a lot for us to do, and we have a lot of people already in the intake process with us. So our programs will be full in that capacity in the next couple of weeks. And we need to keep creating new programs, because there's been a lot of shuffling with the virtual changes, but things are getting there, things are getting maxed out again, and we need to keep innovating and adding new programs. So tomorrow is Giving Tuesday Now, and we have a fundraising campaign to raise another $15,000 to help support these two new virtual programs that we want to, one's already up and running as of last week, but we want to keep it going, and one that will start at the end of this month, so we can keep reaching new people and keep adding more people out of isolation and getting them into connection. All right, so it's time for questions and for Kristen to flex her Zoom technology skills that she's gained over the last week.
So many skills. All right, thank you guys so much for that. And like Christy said, we're gonna take some questions now. So just again, to review, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so that we can all see each other again. And then, like I said earlier, there's a couple of ways that you can ask us questions. So you can either send your question through the chat, or you can send a note saying that you have a question to me, and I will call on you. Feel free at this point to turn your video on if you'd like to ask your question in person. And then as we go through this, if you continue to have questions, you can also just message me about this process. But so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There we go. And we do actually have a few questions that were sent through the chat. So Sarah asks, is there a current need for mentors, and has this need increased? So maybe if you guys want to talk a little bit about how our mentorship program works, and you covered a little bit about the peer support component, but specifically looking at how maybe has this need increased or changed over the past couple of weeks in particular.
Do you want me to answer that, Christy?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So the mentor part of our program is, it comes with Bridge to Life. So if you are in our Bridge to Life program and you would like to be matched with a mentor, our graduate intern, Jenny, is someone who kind of keeps in touch with all the mentors, and she kind of does some of the matching and all of that. I will be really honest, I actually don't know if that has increased or decreased or stayed the same specifically in the last couple of weeks. So that's a great question, but we definitely do have that as part of the services that we provide.
I would say we're definitely still recruiting mentors, because while we're growing programs, not every client who's with us is matched with a mentor because we haven't had enough. But if we had enough of a inventory, not that people are inventory, but if we had enough of a backlog of mentors, we could match them, because a lot of our clients, they want the clinical care, they want the shoulder-to-shoulder support, but it's also helpful to have someone who's gone a little further along the path than you. And we're always looking for people who get it. So yeah, they can apply. We have it posted on our website, on our Idealist page, is where we have all of our volunteer opportunities. Great question.
All right, another question that we got was, you guys had mentioned at the beginning, Christy, I believe you talked a little bit about the way that we share and we advertise our program. So this person wanted to know, where do we advertise our programs and through what channels?
Great question. So there's a website called ED Referral that we're listed on. We work with Psychology Today. We're a NEDA network member, and NEDA is the National Eating Disorder Association. So we partner and collaborate with them, and we're on their website. And then we have our own website and all the fancy SEO things that we do. And beyond that, it's just sort of partnerships, word of mouth, people that we work with, clinicians in the area. But I think those are all the official places that we advertise.
Awesome. Another question that was just sent in by someone, aside from the new geographic locations that you mentioned, so you talked about how we're able, with these new virtual programs in particular, to expand further into Maryland and further into Virginia and to reach areas that we weren't able to reach before. So aside from those locations that you mentioned, can you talk a little bit about the new people, the new clients who have reached out to us, and maybe how they differ from our normal clientele, if they do differ at all?
Yeah, so I think we talked a little bit in the beginning, but a lot of the people who are reaching out to us have been in treatment for 10 plus years, and they're just feeling themselves kind of slip, and they need more help. So that's pretty common to what we often see. I think the biggest change is that we're getting people who have struggled but maybe don't have a treatment team, or don't have people they work with already, or haven't sought help yet. So we're getting a lot of people where they're kind of their first call, which is often the case because of our community events that we do in person, but not always the case when people just find us online or see us in other parts. That's one of the biggest changes is people are reaching out for the first time through us, even more than before. And then a lot of people with job changes and job loss recently that have kind of precipitated their situation or changed their current circumstances.
All right. Sorry, I'm scrolling through our participants to make sure I'm not missing any raised hands. So another question that we got in talks a little bit about measuring the success of our program. And so I don't know if you want to talk about how we do that now and maybe how it'll differ, but this person asked, how will you measure the success of your virtual programming in the future? And do we consider this to be a challenge because we've never done virtual programming before? So how will that compare to how we measure the success of our programs now? And that's something that we share just for people, for our participants. Our success measurements are something that we'll share in our annual report, and specifically closer to year end.
Yeah, we are, one cool thing that we're doing kind of on the side, and we're still kind of getting this, hoping to roll it out by the fall at the latest, but we're working with some wonderful local individuals who are have PhDs or working on their PhDs, and they're helping us develop some kind of measurements for all of that we can kind of begin, I guess, surveying our clients and giving them kind of some of these assessments, and then we can get more of the quantitative side of all of that, so we can get some numbers. In the meantime, one of the things I love on the clinical side of things is that we have this really wonderful electronic health record that we use called Theranest. And, there's a lot of reports that you can generate really easily within that. And so one of the things I like to look at sometimes as program director is I try and look at kind of what I would call as retention rates. And I can pretty quickly see, of our new clients who are coming in, how much are they coming back and how frequently are they coming back and where are some of our numbers there. So, the virtual part, we're brand new at this, so we don't have a baseline that helps in terms of kind of comparison and some of those, testing out some of the different variables. All of it's a variable right now. But the exciting part for me is that we're developing a baseline for this, so that as we get into more of those psychometrics, we know more of what we want to measure moving forward. Would you add anything to that, Christie?
Oh, yeah, I think it's a new day with virtual, but we have always given clients when they graduate an exit survey that has given us super strong data that we would, I imagine, do something similar when we have our first sort of cohort graduate virtually. So no, I think that's great. That's great.
All right, so we have a hand raised. So Carrie has a question. So I'm gonna unmute you, Carrie, so you can take it away.
We'll answer your question, Carrie.
Oh, thanks. So kind. I wanted to ask a question, really for the benefit of all, which is, and I think I obviously know the answer, but like,
that's what I was gonna say. I was like, oh no, we're not doing our job.
No, but it is for the benefit of all. So like, we started a moms group, which is great, and in my experience, like, dads want to be just as much a part of the equation. So I guess I'm curious whether, like, what stops us from doing dad stuff? And we have done some, like, we've done Father's Day things in the past, I know. And my guess is that the answer is, like, getting enough dads interested. But yeah, I guess and I'm curious for anybody who's with us, right, if they have any ideas even of, like, dads do care just as much as moms. Yeah. So how can we do a better job of reaching dads?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and part of the thing is this particular group is moms who are in recovery. And so I think in some ways it kind of goes with some of the numbers, even though we absolutely accept men into our program, we predominantly have women who are interested and women who go through the program. So I think it's just like what you said, Carrie. It's like, yeah, as soon as there's a need for dads who are in recovery who would like a group, process group, support group to be a part of, we will absolutely create that. So I guess in the meantime, it's just kind of looking at how do we reach men who are who have eating disorders, who are working on their recovery process.
And that's one thing that's next on our list, which if you could see my brain, you would know all the things how they cascade. It's a scary place sometimes, but that is our next focus area as far as people seeking recovery is a men's group. We've been talking about it forever. We really wanted to start a monthly men's support group this summer, but I think that's going to be changed because we wanted to do it in person, but perhaps that's something we can do even still this summer and just do it virtually. So that is definitely a focus area of ours. And we do like to support the loved ones of people who are seeking recovery as well, because obviously everyone needs support along the process. So we partner with other organizations that have family support groups, and we'd love to get a family support group up and running again one day. There are some other local organizations that do that, so we've not super prioritized that because we try to prioritize the things where no one else is doing it. But that is definitely still on our hearts and on our mind, is how can we support more parents in creating more things like webinars and tools. And we have a workshop with Dr. Dana Herron at the end of this month. They're on the 23rd, I think, of May, for partners of people with eating disorders, like romantic partners versus just families and parents, of how to support your loved one with an eating disorder. So we are always trying to think of the whole community. once we hire more staff and can do all the things, I'd love to build more of that out.
And for the good of the order, has Bobby moved her parent support group online?
I believe
so that it's more accessible?
I'm not entirely sure, but I believe so.
Okay, just curious. Because that's one that used to be in person as well in Maryland. And so if it's now online, it might be easier for folks that are in other parts of the DMV to participate in.
Yeah. And I know that Beth Ann with Stay Strong Virginia, she moved hers online as well. So that one, and I believe that one's nationwide, I want to say, that she's doing. So yeah, we have that as a more local resource as well.
Yeah, and Feast, there are some other ones that are online as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of those resources are also on the COVID-19 guide that Kristen created on our website.
Yeah.
All right.
Great question.
So we have another question. Do we have a list of support groups that accept individuals from out of state, or is the group identified as open to all versus those who live in DC, Virginia, or Maryland? So maybe we had a couple people who hopped on a little bit later. So I don't know if you guys want to just mention that resource guide and what it offers a little bit more, or talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of clinical therapy kind of process groups, we just have to be so careful with state licensures. And so if someone, is in Oklahoma looking for that research, but we don't have a therapist who's licensed in Oklahoma, what we're doing during this time is we're going to Oklahoma's website, their counseling or social work or whatever website, and seeing what are the rules that they're establishing, because a lot of states are doing temporary waivers for licensure. And so, so a lot of our existing clients who have moved back to states that we don't have anyone licensed in, if it's a state that's providing a temporary waiver for that, we're absolutely still allowing them to be in our programs. But apart from that, like Kristen created this really wonderful resource guide, and anything that's not on there, if we have a possible client coming in, and again, if we don't have services in our program that can help, we will look for stuff in their area or things that are nationwide. And then coming up, like Christy said, with our new ID course, it's not, and this is where Christy's not a clinician, but she's kind of a clinician. You're like an unofficial clinician, I feel like. So with our new ID course, that can be available to a lot of different people in different states, especially now that it's going to be virtual for June. So I don't know if that helps to answer that question, but there's some nuances with clinicians and licensure that we just have to be really careful about.
And one thing that I missed at the end of that question was that person was asking in regards to sharing it with their networks and sharing on social media. So for everyone who's on, we'll make sure to get those resources out and send a link to that list in case of someone who has a need. So the next question, I love this one. How can alumni get involved?
That's a great question. Well, Kristen, I feel like you should answer that question, because that's your new pet project.
Sure. So there's a few different ways that alumni get involved, kind of like we alluded to in the last question. We love having people share our work. So just for people who are reaching out to you, sending them the Rock Recovery link, sharing our social media. So Rock Recovery is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And particularly with Facebook and Instagram, we see a lot of our personal community involved. And so we share a lot of positive messages around mental health. This month is actually Mental Health Awareness Month. So you'll see a lot of information around eating disorders and mental health and caring for yourself all month long on those social media platforms. So sharing that work. And then also, we're looking for alumni to help with submitting blogs and sharing their story about recovery. We have alumni who come and serve as mentors as well. So as Christy mentioned a little bit earlier, getting in touch with us or getting in touch with Jenny around our mentorship program and just caring for someone who needs a little help, who needs a helping hand along their journey. And then just becoming so one of the things that a lot of our alumni get involved in is becoming a monthly supporter of Rock Recovery. So, you know, giving back in any way that you can to serve someone else who's coming up in that journey after you is always really appreciated. Christie, is there anything that I'm missing?
And we were dreaming about doing like a book club or like an after work social hour or something too in the summer. So that'll be on hold, but having more events too to connect, hopefully.
Yeah.
So we always say once you graduate, you're part of the Rock family forever, kind of whether you want to be or not. So, which we hope you want to be. So yeah, it's definitely a long-term relationship.
Yeah. And like Christie said, with those few things, with the book club and the alumni peer groups and things like that, we're hoping, you know, once we're back in person, once things go back to some sense of normal again, then we'll be able to get our alumni involved in that. So we're really excited about those opportunities in the future. So we definitely want to be respectful of people's time, and I think that is it as we wrap up our questions. So does anyone have any last minute questions or, you know, want to pop in really quickly? Meredith, Christie, do you guys have any last minute comments?
You know, I'm just grateful for everybody being here, you know, kind of like Kristen said, just thank you so much for your time and your generosity in that way. And thank you for supporting us by being present and just hearing all the things that we're doing. We couldn't do it without you.
Yeah, ditto. Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. We're so glad you joined us. It's good to see some faces and at least your name. So this has been really fun.
Yeah. So like they said, thank you guys so much for being.
Thanks for showing us your face, Chuck. That's good.
So yeah, thank you for being a part of this, and we'll make sure to get you guys a copy of the recording if you're interested in it, and send out, like I said, some additional resources to share. So thank you for being with us tonight.
I joined in super late. I'm so sorry. But I was here for, I think, the last embarrassing maybe 15 minutes. But I wanted to show my support, and I will definitely listen to the tape. And my heart goes out to all of you guys. I mean, everyone's trying to get used to this new normal, and people who are struggling with eating disorders, this is an incredibly difficult time. So just anything that you are doing, keep doing it. And if you need any support or help, reach out. And if I can help, I will. So keep it up.
Thanks,
you guys
Joanne.
are awesome.
Thanks so
Thanks
much.
so much, Joanne. All right. Well, everyone have a good night. And don't forget Giving Tuesday now tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Betty.